Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by SpeedStream. I'm Jim Cardle. He's a former assistant banking commissioner, the vice chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, a member of the Border Security and Public Safety Committee, and most recently is co-chair of the Government Transparency and Operations Committee, and has been in the news because that select committee is looking into the University of Texas. We're pleased to be able to visit with State Rep Dan Flynn today. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jim. It's always my pleasure to come and visit with y'all.
I should mention, I think I neglected, you're in your sixth term.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your service and all your hard work, but if we can, jump right in.
Sure.
And get to the topic of the day, which is your select committee on transparency. We'll get to overall transparency in a minute because you've done work there too. But you just held your first hearing a couple weeks ago, a second hearing here more recently at the beginning of November. It's been in the news a lot that the University of Texas is hiding emails. Transparency questions with money is always suspect, but if you would give us an update, what's the status of your hearings and what's your time frame that we can be looking forward? Are you finding anything out?
Sure. The Transparency Committee was a select committee, and we did operate during the session, and we had an opportunity to look at a lot of things that we felt like needed to have more transparency, and we did pass a number of bills that came out, and they were all passed unanimously in the Texas House and went on to be passed in the Senate, and they've become law. And that is to look at executive salaries, make sure that everything is online, and make sure that the operations of our state agencies are transparent to the public.
That was, I guess, House Bills 9, 11, 12, some of those.
Correct.
And what about the difficulty? Was there a real mood this session for some of that stuff, or did you find it to be fairly easy running?
As I've gone around my district after the sessions and the special sessions, 3 special sessions just to be exact, we have found out that the folks are kind of looking at this particular session as a session of transparency, because it seemed like to me every time someone would go to the front mic and lay out their bill, it always had to do with, we want to be sure we have transparency in this. So it was something that everyone was very well aware of it. The issues that we had to discuss during our committee, and by the way, everything that came out of our committee during the session was unanimous. And we have a committee that is split. It's the same number of R's as D's.
Truly bipartisan.
Correct. And the CPRIT was kind of the focus that we wanted to look at. We were able to go through it. And
that's the Cancer Research Institute.
That's right. And that was one that had some challenges, and we felt like we met them. We worked with everyone involved with that board, and we believe that we were part of the bill that came out that I think is going to make that something that we can all be proud of. Everyone is concerned about cancer research, and as it passed, it wasn't going quite the way we were hoping it would, but we believe now with the new bill that was passed and with our review of that board that it'll be something we'll all be very proud of.
And how about, I know you need to be a little bit careful because of an ongoing investigation, but how about the UT investigations? Board member Wallace Hall is being accused of disclosing things. There's the transparency of public funds and the university there. What are you finding, or what can you share with us in that
It's
regard?
like anything. There's a whole lot being said that maybe they don't have all the facts. The kind of the facts to boil it down to something small is that there was a member of the House, Chairman Jim Pitts, who filed a motion for impeachment, or he filed a bill, impeachment of Regent Wallace Hall.
Okay.
And it came to our committee, and as it's come to our committee, we're looking at that issue. It's somewhat unusual. There's only been 2 impeachments in the history of the state of Texas. One of them was Governor Ferguson. The other was a district judge down in South Texas. So this would be somewhat unusual because both of them were elected, and this is an appointment. So we're wanting to be sure that we do it right. We had a number of planning meetings before we started public hearings. We've had 2 different sessions, one in October and one in November, of where we had public hearings. We'll have one in December, And hopefully it's my plans and my desire that we can wrap this up by the end of the year. We have a council that we have hired, and all the members have had an opportunity to ask questions, and we're believing that we'll be able to have a vote by the committee so that we can have a recommendation.
Okay, something before the end of the year then. If I can, I want to also ask you to clear up, because you've been not necessarily accused, but it's been alleged that you've had closed-door meetings that the committee may not dig as deeply as some would hope. First of all, what is the purpose of a closed-door meeting so that we can understand that? And then what do you expect when you release a report in terms of its severity so far, what you've seen?
Well, there'll be a lot of options for us to consider, and we will consider those. As far as the executive sessions, those executive sessions, there is no voting in those sessions.
Okay.
It's only members of the committee and their staff, and we have believed that because of some of the juvenile records are there, and we're not feeling comfortable to be able to put that out in the public because there are certain laws that we have to adhere to.
Okay.
And so that's a good reason for doing that. And then we have most of the witnesses have been subpoenaed, and they all testify under oath. So we believe that we were trying to make this as fair as possible. At the end of the day, I don't want anyone to feel like they did not have their opportunity to express what their position was.
You've got to be fair in
That's
public
right.
trials
That's
like
right.
this, so to speak.
Because you want anyone serving on a board to have the privilege of being able to ask questions and to be able to ask for information if they need it. But on the other hand, I think the university has the right to be able to protect those things that they feel like it's important. So I think at the end of the day, it's my desire that everyone involved is going to come out and say, we gave a fair hearing and a thorough investigation.
Okay, we'll be sure to continue following that, I know, as you proceed here through the end of the years. If I can change subjects.
Sure.
You were the author of some concealed handgun legislation this session. I believe it was HB 47 and 48.
That's correct.
We're in the middle of hunting season.
Yeah.
Talk about the state of gun control or your efforts regarding those bills.
I've always been a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I think it's very important. And House Bill 47 was a bill that, as far as the CHL license or concealed handgun license, when they were originally passed back over 10 years ago, maybe even further back than that, it really wasn't decided exactly how many hours was needed, and they kind of just picked a number. It's 15 hours. And then as we've gone through the process, we're finding out that 4 to 6 hours is a better fix for it. And the only complaints that we've had was people saying, well, you need more training. Well, this is not training for a handgun license, nor is it training for learning how to drive a car when you go get a license. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to know how to drive a car when you go get a license. You should know how to shoot a gun before you ask for a license. In House Bill 48, it streamlines the operation for us to be able to offer renewals online. And I think that the people that have their CHL license are going to find it to be very convenient. I think that it's something that the folks with very strong support from everyone. Mm-hmm. It passed strong support on the House floor and went through the Senate also.
We're in the middle or beginning filing period. Elections are coming up next year in March. Do you hear much about your efforts there? Are people still thinking about gun control?
I'm finding out whenever I go somewhere and anyone talks about those two bills, mm-hmm. I get strong support. It's very refreshing to know that there are people that are, first of all, they're involved. They know how they feel about it, and the public, particularly here in Texas, feels very strong about their Second Amendment rights. And we will always do anything we can to protect those rights. I think it's important. Important
and not necessarily surprising, you're right, given the state of Texas. And one final subject, if I can again thank Chairman Dan Flynn, or Co-Chairman Dan Flynn of the House Select Committee on Transparency and Government Operations from HD2. Representative, another effort that you had, and generally in Texas we know there's a lot of veterans, a lot of military coming back from overseas. You recently were at a signing ceremony with the governor, had a successful effort there on the, I believe, Veterans Jobs Bill. Talk about the situation with job hiring, the state trying to serve those who have served us, if you would.
And you know what? They have no greater responsibility than to be sure and take care of those who have had the nation's uniform on and gone out to protect. The Military Jobs Bill, which we're very proud of, it's pretty simple, really. What happens is we've got veterans coming back. Highest unemployment rates in the nation, and even in Texas, are among our veterans. This is just
Really?
horrible. We're going to take care of our veterans, as our commitment is, and this bill will allow someone to use their military service and training towards whatever occupation they're looking at. Example, a truck driver. If you can drive a truck in a combat zone, you ought to be able to negotiate Interstate 35. I know it's similar.
Maybe.
But anyway, that's something. And so what happens is they come back with this knowledge, and they were finding out they were going to have to take a 2-year course to learn how to drive a truck. Well, they could teach the course. And so this was something that we worked with a lot of the state agencies, and they were very good. Same thing with plumbers, electricians, military, security, hospitals, a lot of medics coming back. And we need to be able to let those veterans use their experience. In many cases, that combat experience is far exceeds what we teach our people right here in our own schools.
And I think that was SB 162. You had bipartisan work there with Senator
We sure
Letitia
did.
Van Depute. And then finally, you're a member of the Texas State Guard. You mentioned prior to coming on that you had just been down in the border area. I want to give you credit for and you've recruited a number of fellow legislators, but what do you see as the state of border security? You're on that committee, and then what was your experience last week, if you could share some of that during a typical deployment?
This is one of those things where I kind of wear two hats. As a member of the Homeland Security and Public Safety Committee, we have oversight of the DPS and Parks and Wildlife and those activities. And as a member of the State Guard, it's something that we want to be sure that we take care of, because we have about 50 State Guard members that are full-time along that border, and they do monitoring work. All of the other agencies have told me there's no way they could do their job without those State Guard members. The DPS does an outstanding job. We're with Director Steve McCraw. We are very fortunate to have him in oversight of this. The DPS, we were on some of their gunboats.
Okay.
They're mounted with 30 caliber machine guns, and we were in their helicopters. They fly and do surveillance work. And while we were there, we observed some of the bad guys trying to do some things.
This is just in the last couple of weeks.
That's right. And we were able to be a part and see that. The bottom line of that border security, if we didn't have the governor that we have, there wouldn't be any border security, because the federal government does not really help us at all on that. My hat is off to Governor Rick Perry and what he's done, and we did a surge sometime back a few weeks ago, and we found out that when we have the troops on the ground and when we do that surge, it'd be zero coming across that border. The Mexican drug cartel continues to be the thing that is the scariest. One of the surprising things to me was when I found out that the people that do catch, about 80% of them are what they call OTMs, other than Mexicans. And a big percentage of them were coming from China, which another thing that surprised me. But I feel very comfortable because the fence where it is being deployed in an area where we have surveillance, we have drones, we have troops on the ground, we have cameras, and it's like anything else. You have to have a balance in your security. And I think we're doing a good job of that. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But on the other hand, we're also lending a lot of support to the local constables who are very helpful to us, as well as the Parks and Wildlife, and of course the DPS, and then our Texas Rangers do an outstanding job. And we're finding out that even the Border Control relies very heavily on us because they've had cutbacks. So I think that Texas has done an outstanding job. We need to continue what we're doing, and I have every confidence that Director McCall and the governor is going to continue to support those efforts.
Well, in that vein of efforts, we're going to leave it there. You're in town as a hardworking representative. Appreciate your coming by, and we look forward to visiting with you later.
Well, I'm always honored, and it's a privilege to come and visit with you, Jim, and thank you very much for your work that you do for the state.
Thank you very much, Representative. Folks, we're thrilled to be able to visit with one of the leading conservatives over in the House of Representatives, State Representative Dan Flynn from House District 2. Be sure and join us again for future editions of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by Speedstream. Remember, you're either an insider or you're not. I'm Jim Cardle. Thanks for joining.